Hello and welcome to the channel. Today, we are diving into one of the most dramatic and shocking claims to ever come out of the Sister Wives universe, and folks, that is saying something. The buzz is everywhere, and it's all centered on this one brutal phrase, that Kody Brown is mentally broken. This isn't just a random insult from a troll on the internet. This is the consensus that is forming from his own family members, his wives, his children, who are speaking out in what has become a relentless, brutal, and very public expose. Kody is reportedly shaken, and frankly, he has every reason to be. Because this time, the narrative is completely out of his control. So, what is this brutal podcast expose we're talking about? It's not one single event. It's a war being fought on multiple fronts. It's an avalanche of truth bombs that have been building for years and are finally all landing at once. We have Robyn Brown, his own daughter, running a savage, play-by-play takedown of his behavior on her personal YouTube channel, calling him a misogynist and a coward. We have Christine and Janelle, the ex-wives who fled, appearing on podcasts and in interviews, dropping bombshells so big they shake the very foundation of the family, including the allegation that Kody was disfellowshipped or kicked out of his own church for abandoning his family. And perhaps the most damning piece of evidence in this entire expose doesn't even come from the cast. It comes from Kody Brown himself. In a moment of unguarded honesty while promoting his appearance on Special Forces, Kody made a confession that validates everything his family is saying. He admitted point-blank that he wasn't mentally fit. Today, we are going to connect all the dots. We're going to follow the money, the interviews, and the heart-wrenching testimony from his own children to build a complete picture. This is the full story of how the Brown family patriarch went from a man demanding respect to a man being called mentally broken by the very people he claims to lead. This is the full detailed breakdown of the podcast and YouTube expose that has Kody Brown completely and utterly shaken. Part 1. The Truth Offensive, Gwendolyn's Brutal Takedown. To understand this expose, you have to start with the front lines, and the front line is, without a doubt, Kody Brown's YouTube channel. For over a year, Kody and Christine's 24-year-old daughter has been publicly reacting to episodes of Sister Wives, and it is so much more than a simple recap. It is a real-time, unfiltered, and often heartbreaking look at the trauma Kody has inflicted on his own children. Gwendolyn doesn't pull a single punch. She is, in effect, fact-checking her own father's narrative, and the picture she paints is devastating. She is the original source for so many of the claims that Kody is manipulative, out of touch, and fundamentally broken as a father. Let's just look at the language she uses. Gwendolyn has repeatedly watched her father's on-screen antics and used words like manipulative, gaslighting, and cowardly. When Kody famously blamed Christine for the failure of their marriage, Gwendolyn watched the clip, paused it, and just looked at the camera in disbelief, calling his behavior gross. She has openly stated that she believes her father is a massive misogynist, which explains, in her view, why he was able to so easily discard his original 3 wives in favor of the one he saw as more obedient, Robyn. Think about how powerful that is. This isn't a critic. This isn't an ex-wife. This is his daughter, a member of the OG Brown children, confirming the entire fan theory that Kody's behavior isn't about faith or family, it's about control and misogyny. But where her expose becomes truly brutal is when she discusses the man, not the patriarch. She provides the emotional context that the show often misses. While watching a scene where Kody was seen being a loving, present, and playful father to Robyn's children, Aurora, Brianna, and Solomon, Gwendolyn's face just crumpled. She got visibly upset and said, "It hurts so much to see him be a good father to others when I didn't really get that much." She has detailed how Kody was never a truly present father for her and her siblings, how he was always distant, and how watching him step up for Robyn's kids felt like a direct and personal rejection. She has even mocked Kody's manly man persona, calling him a little cowardly for his absolute inability to handle emotional conflict or take any form of accountability. This is the foundation of the mentally broken claim. Gwendolyn's channel is the brutal expose in action. She is showing the world that Kody's on-screen behavior isn't a new development. It's not a temporary breakdown from the stress of COVID or the divorces. In her testimony, this is who he has always been, but the facade has crumbled. The patriarch is gone, and all that's left, in her view, is this cowardly and manipulative man who is so broken he would rather lose his entire family than admit he was wrong. She isn't just reacting to a TV show. She is publicly processing her trauma and, in doing so, giving a voice to all the other children he has abandoned. Part 2. The Wives of Christine and Janelle's Public Betrayal. If Gwendolyn's YouTube channel is the front line of the expose, then Christine and Janelle's joint media tour is the heavy artillery, leveling the very foundations of Kody's entire public identity. This isn't just a tell-all. This is a systematic, public dismantling of the man, the husband, and the patriarch they once knew. They have been making the rounds on major podcasts, with their most devastating bombshells being dropped on the Smith sisters' live show. And what they revealed is not just family gossip. It's a claim that strikes at the heart of Kody's spiritual authority and his entire reason for being. According to Janelle and Christine, the reason Kody was so desperate to avoid admitting the divorces was not just about his ego. It was because his own church, the AUB, allegedly disfellowshipped him. That is a religious term for being kicked out, excommunicated. Janelle stated that Kody's membership was revoked, and he was labeled a complete failure by their religious leaders for the ultimate sin in their faith, abandoning his wives and his children. This is the nuclear bomb of the entire expose. Let's really break down what this means. For over 30 years, Kody Brown's entire public persona, his justification for every bizarre decision, his financial demands, his rules, his leadership, it was all built on the claim that he was a man of God, a righteous priesthood holder, and a devout polygamist. This one claim from Janelle and Christine completely shatters that. It reframes his entire on-screen meltdown not as a man losing his family, but as a failed religious leader who is already a fraud. It explains why he so violently rejected the word divorce. Because in his mind, it wasn't the wives leaving him. It was the wives confirming his ultimate failure to his faith. The brutal expose here is that Kody Brown, the self-proclaimed patriarch of a godly family, has no spiritual standing left. He is, according to this claim, a religious outcast. But they didn't stop there. On that same podcast tour, Christine and Janelle twisted the knife. After describing his hostile commentary and rage-filled behavior on the show, they looked at each other, and Janelle openly wondered if Kody is okay, questioning his mental state for a public audience. This is the source of the mentally broken claim. It's one thing for fans to say it. It's another for his first two wives, the women who spent nearly 30 years with him, to publicly speculate that the man is, to put it plainly, unwell. They are framing his anger not as righteous, but as unstable. They are reframing his leadership as a mental breakdown. They are validating every single fan theory, every criticism from Gwendolyn, and every person who has watched Kody spiral on television and said, that man is not okay. And then there is Christine's Freedom Tour. As she promotes her new memoir, she is, in effect, executing a public relations kill shot on Kody's character, and she's using his own humiliation as the weapon. Her book and the subsequent interviews are a masterclass in exposing his hypocrisy. She is telling the stories that sister wives never aired. She has detailed the sickening moment she learned that Kody and Robyn, his fourth wife, were openly discussing Christine's sex life. She was horrified that Kody was complaining about his intimacy with her to another wife, and even more horrified that Robyn, as a sister wife, would allow it and participate. She talks about the ring, that heartbreaking story where she begged Kody for years to simply replace a stone in her wedding ring, and he always said they couldn't afford it. Then, one day, she sees a beautiful, new-looking ring on Robyn's finger and compliments it. Robyn's reply? Oh, Kody just took one of my old rings and surprised me by putting a diamond in it. This is the expose. It's the public humiliation. It's Christine, now happily remarried and glowing, telling the entire world that Kody Brown was a man who would financially and emotionally starve his original wives and children to please his favorite. It's her confirming that the family account, The one family Kody always preached about was being systematically drained, with money funneled toward Kody and Robyn's household. When Kody has reportedly tried to offer a pathetic, on-camera apology in the new season, Christine has openly scoffed at it in her interviews. She told Access Hollywood that his apology doesn't matter and that she has no interest in his games. This is the shaken part. Kody is losing the public war because his former wives are not just disagreeing with him. They are exposing him. They are taking away his faith, his financial credibility, and his sanity, one brutal podcast at a time. Part 3. The Smoking Gun, Kody's Own Confession. For weeks, we've had Gwendolyn's emotional testimony. We've had Christine and Janelle's spiritual and financial bombshells. The entire expose has been building, painting a picture of a man who is unstable, angry, and completely lost. But it was all until this point coming from them. The final, irrefutable piece of evidence, the smoking gun that validates every single claim, doesn't come from a podcast. It doesn't come from a YouTube recap. It comes directly from the mouth of Kody Brown himself. In a moment of what appears to be profound, accidental honesty while promoting his appearance on the brutal reality show Special Forces, World's Toughest Test, Kody handed his critics the very word they were looking for: broken. Kody went on this show, by his own admission, to prove his manhood, to show his estranged children that he was still a tough, capable leader. Instead, the show did the opposite. It systematically stripped away his ego, his bluster, and his patriarch persona, leaving behind a raw, exposed nerve. In his press interviews for the show, he was a different man, not the arrogant, defiant Kody we see on Sister Wives, but a humbled, almost shell-shocked version of himself. And then he said it. When asked by E! News about the experience, Kody confessed, "They're finding your weakness. And they're pushing you on your weakness. And they found me in an emotional weakness. They found me in a mental weakness." He then went on to say, "It felt like it broke me. It was humiliating in such a way that I came home feeling just humble." Let's stop and absorb the magnitude of that confession. This is the man who built his entire identity on being the unshakable leader, the alpha, the head of the household. And here he is on a press tour, admitting to the entire world that he was broken by an emotional and mental weakness. He didn't stop there. In another interview with Parade, he was even more direct. He was asked why he was making so many mistakes during the challenges on the show, and he gave this shocking answer, quote, "I was messing up quite a bit. But it wasn't because I wasn't physically fit, it was because I wasn't mentally fit." This is the entire ballgame. The brutal expose is complete, and Kody himself signed the confession. His family has been saying for years that he's emotionally unstable, that he's not thinking clearly, that he's acting out of a place of brokenness, and here he is admitting, "I wasn't mentally fit." This quote reframes his entire storyline on Sister Wives. His rage-filled rants at Christine, his gaslighting of Janelle over the RV, his cruel, cold-shouldered dismissal of his own children, Gabe and Garrison. According to Kody's own words, he was committing these relationship-ending acts of self-sabotage while he was not mentally fit. It is a stunning, damning admission. He wasn't a strong patriarch making tough decisions. He was, by his own account, a mentally unfit man who broke under pressure. He thought Special Forces would be his redemption story, but instead, it became his public confession. Part 4. The On-Screen Evidence, a Patriarch in Collapse. Kody Brown's confession that he wasn't mentally fit is the smoking gun. But for the millions of us who have been watching the show, it wasn't a revelation. It was a confirmation. The on-screen evidence of his collapse has been piling up for years. His emotional and mental weakness wasn't just an internal feeling. It was a public spectacle, a multi-season performance of a man losing control and lashing out at everyone in his blast radius. When you connect his admission of being broken to his actual behavior on the show, the puzzle pieces don't just fit. They form a terrifyingly clear picture of a patriarch in a full-blown, catastrophic collapse. We're going to go through the receipts case by case. First, let's talk about the angry man persona and the COVID wars. This is where the mask didn't just slip. It was ripped off. The Kody Brown of early seasons, the goofy, long-haired, convertible-driving, rebel polygamist, vanished. He was replaced by a rigid, angry, and cold tyrant who used the global pandemic as a weapon of control. His infamous rules for the family were never truly about health. They were about loyalty. He demanded his wives and adult children cease all travel, stop seeing their partners, and essentially live in a bubble. Not so the family could all be together, but so he could safely travel from their unclean homes to Robyn's clean one. When Janelle and Christine, the mothers of his 13 other children, pointed out the logical flaws and the emotional devastation this was causing, they were met with rage. This culminated in one of the most chilling moments in the show's history: Kody's refusal to attend his daughter Isabel's major, life-altering back surgery. After years of Isabel suffering from agonizing scoliosis, Christine had to take her across the country for the operation. Kody, citing his own COVID rules, refused to go. He refused to break his protocol to be with his daughter as she went under the knife. Yet, in the same time frame, he was comfortable having Robyn's secret nanny in his home. The hypocrisy was staggering. This wasn't a leader making a tough choice. This was, as Kody himself admitted, a mentally unfit man who was so deep in his own emotional weakness that he chose the control of his rules over the compassion of fatherhood. This collapse was on full display in his final, relationship-ending confrontation with Christine. We all know the scene. After Christine has finally packed his belongings into boxes in her garage, Kody comes over for a talk that quickly degrades into a full-blown tantrum. This is the infamous knife in the kidneys speech. He paces back and forth, his voice rising, his body language aggressive, as he accuses a perfectly calm Christine of betraying him. He screams about the sacrifices he made to love her, and then delivers the line that exposed his narcissistic core. "You never tried to have a good relationship with these people," he says, gesturing to Robyn's house. And then he roars, "It's a knife in the kidneys after all these years. The sacrifices I've made to love you." Let's analyze this. A mentally fit person, when a 25-year marriage is ending, might feel sadness, regret, or even mutual respect. Kody felt victimhood. He saw her escape as an act of violence against him. He didn't see the years he had neglected her, the intimacy he withheld, or the promise he broke by abandoning neutrality for his favorite wife. All he saw was his loyal subject rebelling. Christine's reaction in that moment said it all. She just sat there, almost dissociated, completely checked out. She wasn't fighting a husband. She was watching a man, the man Gwendolyn called a coward, completely and totally unravel because he was, for the first time, facing a consequence. If his fight with Christine was a tantrum, his war with Janelle was a campaign of strategic gaslighting. This is best seen in the RV fight and the financial arguments. When Janelle's rental home was sold out from under her, she was left with no housing. Kody, the patriarch, the man who was supposed to preside, offered no solution. So, Janelle took her own money and bought a fifth-wheel RV to live in on the family's undeveloped Coyote Pass property. Kody's reaction? Disgust. He hated the RV. He complained about the space, the inconvenience, and his lack of a patriarchal throne. This led to a blowout fight where Janelle, the calm, logical business partner of the family, finally broke. After Kody screamed at her for not respecting him, she turned and said the two words he never thought he'd hear from her, "Uff, uff." She walked away from him, a symbolic end to her decades of loyalty. But the gaslighting ran deeper. In later episodes and tell-alls, it was revealed that Janelle's financial insecurity, the very reason she was in an RV, was because the money from the sale of her Las Vegas home was rolled into the down payment for Robyn's massive Flagstaff mansion. Kody and Robyn had tried to revise history, claiming it was all family money, but Janelle and Christine called them out. Kody's offer to help Janelle? It was for her to buy Christine's house, a property the family already owned. It was a shell game. He wasn't just a mentally unfit leader. He was a financially and emotionally manipulative partner, and Janelle had finally had enough. Finally, and most tragically, there is the estrangement from his sons. The ultimate proof of Kody's brokenness is his relationship with Gabe and Garrison. This wasn't a sudden split. It was a death by 1,000 cuts. We saw the seeds years ago, when Kody would punish Gabe with isolation for minor infractions. But during COVID, it became a full-blown war. Kody demanded his adult sons, who were working and going to school, stop their lives, including seeing their girlfriends. When they pushed back, Kody didn't parent, he banished. In one of the show's most heartbreaking scenes, an emotional Gabriel calls his father on his birthday. Kody, having forgotten the day entirely, talks to Gabe for a few minutes about having COVID, but never once wishes him a happy birthday. Gabriel is left weeping in his confessional, describing the moment his own father erased him. He said he was met with a wall and that there was no line of dialogue. Kody's emotional weakness and his unfit mental state, as he called it, created a wall of pride so thick that he would rather lose his own sons than pick up the phone and apologize. He saw their independence as a betrayal and their pain as an inconvenience. This is the ultimate patriarch in collapse, a man who has willingly sacrificed his own children on the altar of his own ego.